Hello everybody, good morning and welcome to the United Stands. I'm Mark Goldbridge and this is your latest Manchester United news as Manchester United get ready for carnage, get ready for change as change is coming under INEOS. We've had the story at the start of the week that they intend to put everybody up for sale really, with bar 3 or 4 youngsters. They want change, they want money, they want a fast track to success, and they're not waiting for any man or woman. They're basically moving fast. No decision will be made about the manager until they've got the structure above them, which I think is a good thing. And we've seen a change in the structure overnight. There is a big meeting taking place today between the senior management team involving the likes of Blanc and Radcliffe and others. But a change was made last night. A statement was put out by Manchester United that will have huge ramifications for Man United. Could it lead to Zidane? Could it lead to Rashford to PSG? Well, Jean-Claude Blanc is going to be the new interim CEO for Manchester United over the next couple of months until Barada comes in. And this is huge, and we'll talk about why in a moment. But Patrick Stewart, formerly of Star Trek, I'm joking. Patrick Stewart was the CEO. It wasn't that Patrick Stewart. He has left at the end of the season, but it's more than that. It's with immediate effect. This is not running out at the end of May. This is step aside now. Blanc is going to step in as the CEO. And it's that significant position that will lead to major change quicker for Manchester United, because Blanc is going to be part of this project anyway. If you don't know about Blanc, he previously was at Juventus for, I think, between 2006 and 2011. He then spent 11 years as PSG's CEO. A couple of years ago, he started working for INEOS in their sporting group, and he's now massively part of this Manchester United takeover. He will not be the CEO when Barada comes in, but he's more than capable, having done 11 years at PSG and previously 3 years at Juventus, of being a very big player in the European football scene. Juventus are a big player, PSG are a big player, and Manchester United will be a big player with positions like this being taken by somebody like Blanc. Now, it won't impact on Barada, but he's not just going to walk away when Barada comes in. I actually feel that Blanc may well be one of those people that's an advisor, a senior, and a worker with Barada who will take on the CEO role. I think Blanc is going to have a major involvement in Manchester United from today and for years to come, which can only be a positive, because you can't dispute and dismiss the enormity of somebody that has spent so long around the top echelons of European football. But what does it mean? Could it mean Zidane? He has maintained a good relationship with Zidane over the years. There was talk of PSG going for Zidane at times, and certainly maybe Manchester United. So could that open a door to Zidane if Man United choose to change the manager? Or, after 11 years at PSG, he's got good relationships there. Could it lead to a PSG deal for Marcus Rashford? So he knows his stuff, Carlos. You're absolutely correct. A lot of people are saying, what does this mean for the Glazers? Look, I think there are people in our fan base that want to pretend that this is the end of the Glazers and this deal is the end of the Glazers and this is the Glazers losing control. And I think it's far-fetched. Look, I think the Glazer argument, I'm very interested in the Glazer argument, but I don't think as a fan base we're very interested in it. We didn't get rid of the Glazers. Who's at fault for that? Maybe all of us, maybe none of us. I don't know. But when people start wandering off back to the Glazer argument, oh, INEOS are getting rid of the Glazers. They're not getting rid of the Glazers. They were sat next to the Glazers at the FA Cup semi-final. Like, the Glazers and INEOS are working together. That they are. Whether we like it or not, they are. What's happening is the Glazers want their pie and eat it. The Glazers want to sort of let somebody do the job and make money, which is what they've not been able to do. So the Glazers will probably become more backseat, but they're still owners of half of the football club, and I don't think they're going to relinquish that. Honestly, if you were a business person and you didn't give a shit about Man United, you just wanted to make money out of it, are you really going to say no when somebody who knows about football says, let's put Blanc in as the interim for 3 months, then we've got Barada, let's get Dan Ashworth in, who's one of the best director of footballs in the Premier League, let's bring Wilcox in, who's one of the best up-and-coming technical directors. If you just want to make money out of this football club, you're not going to sit there and go, I think we'll choose who it's going to be, Sir Jim, actually. You're not. You're going to let people do the job that they wanted people like Woodward and Arnold to do, but they couldn't do. So the Glazers are probably just going to back off and go, you do all the heavy lifting, We'll sign it off. I don't think the Glazers are really anything to do with... I don't think this has got anything to do with the Glazers going. It's not why I'm excited. I'm excited because of the footballing side of things and decisions that are going to be made. And I think we are going to move into a carnage area now where we really do start to see a lot of change. Now, obviously, we will talk about the manager, but I think that this meeting today... and look, they could easily have kept Stewart as the CEO for 2 more months. Why change him with immediate effect when you've got Berardi coming in 2 months? Because it's about taking control. Stewart represents the previous regime. Stewart represents working with people like Richard Arnold and John Murtagh. Blanc represents the new regime, and they're going to get Blanc working with the likes of Wilcox, the new manager, Ten Hag, if it is Ten Hag, Ashworth, etc. So I think it's about, we haven't got the director of football, we haven't got the CEO until July, let's get Blanc in, so we've got somebody new. And effectively, I'm very happy with it because I want our CEO Berardi to start now, but he can't start now. But we've got a new CEO starting now. I think this is a real positive day for Manchester United because Blanc is a really good CEO. He starts today. So all this moaning about we haven't got a CEO in place, and we have now. We've got Blanc, and he knows what he's doing. And if we need to bring in a new manager, or we need to sell players, or we need to buy players, he knows what he's doing. Like, he's done it 11 years for PSG and previously at Juventus. So this is a significant day because we actually have now got a CEO who knows what they're doing. What will it lead to? Well, there's a big meeting today. Man United want to get their structure in place, and it's getting closer to that. You know Berardi's starting in July. We've got this interim now who will stay part of the club in Blanc. We know Ashworth's coming at some point. Wilcox is already there. We're getting all this conversation about players being up for sale. Obviously, we'll get more progression on players that we're going to sign. But it's the finite detail of the structure that also is really important. The fitness side of things, the coaching side of things, the development side of things, the scouting side of things, the recruitment side of things. All these things can be working on now, today, with decisions being made by people that are going to be part of this project for the next few years. And I think that's really, really important. Let's talk about the manager just very briefly. There are quite a few things I need to go through with you today, actually. I should have done this, but I was getting quite excited. We will talk about Sancho. We will talk about Rashford. We will talk about a little bit more about Maguire, Bruno. Also, we're going to talk about a bit of hypocrisy from the Dinosaurs, the ex-player brigade, around how their opinion actually sometimes is just inflammatory. In fact, you're damned if you're doing, you're damned if you don't. We'll talk about that in relation to a game against Liverpool where they sort of outed themselves as being hypocrites. But what I want to start off with, you get Easter eggs on the United stand, and it's not necessarily Easter. Last night, I did a show at 7 o'clock. I wore this. Not worn it for ages. Martinez. You can get one from Shopify. Please do. But, well, I wore this at 7 o'clock. 8 o'clock, brief, Martinez is back in training on the pitch. Sometimes we'll do things for a reason. So Martinez is back training, which is why I wore this last night and why it came out quite soon after. And it's why I'm wearing it today. It's a massive, massive positive to know that Martinez is back training. Will he play against Palace on Monday? I hope so. The thing about Martinez, and this is just fantastic news. I mean, we want to keep the positivity train rolling, and having Lisandro the Butcher Martinez back playing for Manchester United with an FA Cup final to come and big games to come. And I think he's so fundamental to how we want to play. And we've seen it so few times. I don't think he's genuinely really been match fit this season. You think about the start of the season, he had the foot problem. You think about January, he was just getting back to fitness when he fell on his knee, and then he came back again and had a calf problem. He's just not been fit all season. So my big intake of breath with Martinez is actually whether he can stay fit. That's the first thing for me. He is back, but we've lost him 3 times this season when he's been back. So we hopefully this time he's going to be back, because he's going to want to play in the Copa America. I mean, look, say what you like about Martinez, and I really like him, but he is definitely focused on playing for his national team, the same way Luke Shaw is trying to get back for the Euros. Is that for the betterment of Man United? Of course it's not, but some players, and that can be a positive, as long as they care about Man United as much, really want to play for their national teams. So he will be doing everything he can to get back, but the big thing is, can he stay fit? And that's going to be the big thing with Martinez. But he's back training, and that is a real positive. I don't think Luke Shaw's far away, and I don't think Martial's back is too far away. When's Varane back, says Shane? Well, of course, we want Varane back, but honestly, if you give me Luke Shaw and Martinez, we can shift Maguire to right-sided centre-back and we'd be a much better defence. So, there we go. Dylan says, morning, Mark. Off topic, but do you think Martinez has been rushed back again? Hopefully not, but good to see him back. Yeah, I mean, look, this is the thing. I can't guarantee he's not going to get injured again. I think this is a massive period for Martinez. Like, he needs to come back fit this time, stay fit to the end of the season, go to the Copa America, stay fit, then come back and be fit for us at the start of the season. There's a lot of hurdles there. We're just going to have to hope that he can do it. And that's all I'm going to say. Patrick Lynch says, hi, Mark. At what stage do you think the fans will stop making the distinction between INEOS and the club? When do we start seeing them as a single entity? I mean, this is a great point. Because I refer to them as INEOS. But in a sense, I don't think we do. And it's a minor point, but it's a good point. Why do I refer to them as INEOS? Why do you refer to them as INEOS? Because they only own 25%. There is INEOS, there is the Glazers, and there is Manchester United. And yes, it would be nice to get to a point where we don't call them INEOS and we just say Manchester United. But that, in a way, I like calling them INEOS because they're distinct. The minute you start calling them Man United, they become part of the Glazer shareholder ownership. I would rather keep calling them INEOS because they've got control of the footballing side of things. But, you know, I guess we'll have to wait and see. What about Malacia? I don't see Malacia coming back at all. So anyway, back to the main story. Huge INEOS move, new CEO. Could he want Zidane? That's what it says in the title. A lot of people were talking about this last night. Look, Blanc has a good relationship with Zidane. Zidane is available. Man United could change their manager. So is it logical to follow a pathway of Zidane is the CEO until the summer, and then he will stay in a role of seniority above Barada? Could the involvement, and this is really important. This is really important. Barada doesn't start until mid-July. The Euros don't finish till mid-July. That's how, if you're thinking about Barada's going to be here soon, think about that. Barada doesn't start until pretty much the end of the Euros. That's quite significant to get it in your head, because when you put a date in your head, you can go, oh, it's not that far away. But when I put it like Barada doesn't officially start until the day the Euros finish, that's very late in the transfer window. So what you've got in the interim is Blanc. Now, Blanc is more than capable of overseeing sales of players, purchases of players, and even a new manager if required. So we've got Patrick Stewart, who was basically not equipped to do that. He was stepping up. You've got Barada, who's stepping in. There's a big difference between stepping up and stepping in. Someone who steps up is doing the best job to the best of their capability. Stepping in is doing the job that you know what you're doing. So we've got Blanc now for the next 2 months, and then we've got Barada. And remember, this is Barada's first job as a CEO as well. He was a COO, so he wasn't a CEO. Blanc has done it. So I think this is massive. And I some people say, I think it actually is massive the more I think about it, because this is a guy who will have been involved in multiple contract renewals, sales, purchases, major sales, purchases and contract renewals. This is somebody that will have sacked multiple managers and appointed multiple managers. So we have somebody in place from today, the 1st of May, until the middle of July, who can do all the things we need doing if needed. So he could oversee the recruitment of Zidane. He could oversee keeping Ten Hag and working with him on removal of players. He can do anything, and he has the track record of doing it. United have put themselves in a position today where they can do anything. Some might say Blanc's a better CEO than Barada. We don't need to say that because Barada's coming in, we're going to give him our support, and Blanc's going to stay. But some might say Blanc's actually better equipped to do the big things than Barada because he's done it all. So we have somebody who can come in and do it. What about the Zidane rumours, Mark? Could he bring Zidane to Manchester United? Well, there's not many people, bar probably Real Madrid and Juventus, that can take Zidane. Zidane loves Real Madrid and he loves Juventus. Beyond that, Blanc has a good relationship with him. He, more than anybody else, could probably persuade Zidane to do it if Zidane is persuadable. But I would say it's nothing more than speculation, because as much as Zidane and Blanc might have a good relationship, Zidane has always expressed a lack of interest in managing in the Premier League. He's also a manager that's more of he's a niche coach. He takes on good players and gets the best out of good players. Man United haven't got good players. And also, Zidane did the Real Madrid job because he loved Real Madrid. What's his attachment to Manchester United? So I don't think Zidane to Man United is realistic. But if it was possible, then maybe Blanc could do something about it. But Zidane and Blanc having a good relationship and Zidane potentially being persuaded to manage Man United if they remove Ten Hag is a hell of a leap. I think there's more of a leap to say Blanc's the guy that could oversee a PSG Man United Rashford deal. Now, I look at it like that. Some people could look at it and go, well, Blanc's more than capable of bringing a new manager in, which he is. But he's also more than capable of selling players, negotiating deals. I just think it puts us in a really, really strong situation. And I'm not saying that we're going to sell Marcus Rashford, by the way, to PSG. But what I am saying is that I do believe that that Manchester United, with somebody like this in place, really could do whatever they want to do in the sense of bringing in and selling players. So I think it's very interesting. Somebody's made a very good point. Was there any crossover between Blanc and Tuchel? Well, there has to be. Just by years, there has to be. I'm just having a quick look here. I mean, it just came into my head as well. There's literally nothing out there. But Tuchel was at PSG when he was there. Let me have a quick look at this. Tuchel managed PSG from 2018 to 2020, which is the period that Blanc was the CEO. And let me have a quick look here. Look, the reason I talk about it, the reason I talk about it is because obviously a lot of people were watching Bayern Munich last night and they still think that we might sack the manager. I can't see anything. I can't see anything about that. I mean, look, I suppose if you're somebody that wants Thomas Tuchel at Manchester United, PSG CEO at the time that Tuchel was there was Blanc. He would have sacked him. He would have recruited him. There's not a lot out there about their relationship. They might really like each other. They might really not like each other. I don't know. But yeah, it's look, I don't want Tuchel. So if you want Tuchel, there is a Blanc and Tuchel connection there. It could be a real positive. Tuchel, PSG, Blanc, maybe they got on really well. Maybe Blanc's saying, yeah, let's get him. On the other hand, if you do want Tuchel at Man United, you've got the guy who's current CEO with his ear to Sir Jim Ratcliffe, who will give him the biggest lowdown ever. If Sir Jim Ratcliffe's thinking, do I sack Ten Hag for Tuchel? You've got the best guy in the world to tell you everything you need to know about that manager. More than I know, more than you know. Like, Blanc will have worked with him for 2 years. He'll know everything. He'll know what he's like to work with. He'll know what his demands are. He'll know his weaknesses, his strengths. So, you know, if you want Tuchel, then that's the conversation. That's the perfect guy to have. I'd take Zidane over Tuchel. if I was... Hey, let's do a bit of a poll on that, actually. A bit of fun, a bit of positivity. We can all talk about these things. I think the mood is lightening a lot around United, the more positivity we get. I think we can even touch on the Ten Hag stuff without falling out. Who would you take, Zidane or Tuchel? Let me know on that one. But yeah, I don't think it naturally follows that because Blanc's the CEO until Barada comes in, that we'd go for Zidane or that we'd go for Tuchel. I think that's 2 + 2 is 4, really. I mean, God, as I said last night, there are people this morning. I've read articles this morning. I've seen clips this morning. People are leading on Bruno exit hints. Disgusting, idiotic, thick. You're better than that. Come on. Read the bloody article. He doesn't say anything about leaving. He doesn't say anything about thinking about leaving. He actually says, I want to stay and the club want me to stay. But if they did decide to tell they want me to go, I won't talk about it till after the Euros. It was a complete hypothetical with a firm statement that he wants to stay and the club want him to stay. Let's talk about real stuff. And I think that there are some really logical decisions that are going to happen. The big word out of United at the moment is prepare for change. Prepare for change. And already this week, we've had a major briefing that everybody's for sale apart from 3 or 4 players. We've had a major briefing that, well, not a major, well, a major briefing that the CEO interim has gone and Blanc is going to be the new interim CEO until Barada comes in. And this is an interim CEO who knows what he's doing. And the reason they've brought him in is because they're going to make big decisions in May and June. Barada won't be here. So Blanc's been brought in to oversee big decisions. And the reason that Sir Jim Ratcliffe has done that is because Stewart, who was interim, doesn't have the expertise or the skill to deal with the decisions that are going to be made over the next 2 months. We're going to be selling players, we're going to be buying players, we're going to be sacking and recruiting internal positions around recruitment, around fitness, etc. And they need somebody to come in and do that. And that's why they brought Blanc in. And people are screaming and shouting in the chat, he's not the new CEO. He is the new CEO for 2.5 months. And he will be making big decisions. If they weren't going to do anything for 2.5 months, they wouldn't have changed it. They brought Blanc in to oversee change, and it's a big, big thing. But as I said, I think it's more likely that we sell Rashford to PSG than we bring Zidane in. And obviously Blanc's got connections with CEA. So much positivity in this show. Loving it, Mark, says Truck. Thank you very much. Ria says, I read an article yesterday that said PSG are looking for a replacement for Mbappe and Rashford is on their list. Would you say there's any credence to that? Thank you very much, Ria. And Mark Scott says that poll needs to be Zidane, Tuchel or stick with Ten Hag. Well, no, I don't think it does, Mark, because, well, we could lead to that one next. But I think it's just, if you had a choice between Zidane or Tuchel, where would you go? Do you think Barada will be a downgrade on Blanc, says Daily Hibbert? No, because I think Blanc will stay. Blanc's not going anywhere. He's staying. He's part of the INEOS group. He's part of the board for Manchester United. Blanc will move to the board working with Barada. So I don't see a negative to this at all. I want Blanc's involvement because his CV is incredible. I want people like that involved with United. Going back to Ria's story on Rashford, I think it's really important to add one bit that didn't really get picked up yesterday. And in numerous articles, it said it. Whatever anybody thinks about Rashford or a sale or 70 million quid, and United are definitely putting it out there that they're open to offers. Let's not beat about the bush. Man United are really putting it out there that they're open to offers for Rashford. They're not expecting the offers though. They are saying, look, if a good offer comes in, let's talk, but they're not expecting offers and they're happy to keep him. From the Rashford side of things, he is absolutely clear that he wants to stay and turn things around. So we haven't got a player that's kicking and screaming that he wants to go. We haven't got a happy player, let's not pretend that, but we haven't got a player that wants to go. He doesn't want to go. And this could be really clever from United because for the last few years, Rashford's been pampered and protected by Manchester United. And has that led to consistency? No. Is this a new approach from Sir David Brailsford around elite mentality and consistency where they've actually gone with a new approach with Rashford and others and said, we will listen to offers for you? And maybe that'll be a kick up the backside where Rashford suddenly goes, I don't want to leave Manchester. This is my life. I don't want to go. And it might lead to better performance. And if it does, it's a masterstroke. It is, because United have spent years protecting and pampering players. And if we're now going to go down the route of we're not doing that anymore, if we get a good offer, you can go, the players got nowhere to hide. They have to perform. The fans aren't happy. The club aren't happy. The player isn't happy, but the player's causing the unhappiness. You either go, or if you want to stay, you play, and you play well, because we're not going to protect you anymore. So I think it's clever on always, but it's important to remember that the story, as it stands at the moment, is that Rashford is not throwing his toys out the pram. He wants to stay. I'd take 50 to 60 million pounds for Rashford, says Bashir. Charlie Max, good morning, pal, says, if Garnacho, Højlund and Mainu are the three untouchables, then it would suggest that Ten Hag is staying. One is his signing, and he promoted the other two, says Charlie. Kyle says, Mark, no matter what happens on the manager front, I hope Blanc comes in and clears out the deadwood and starts our rebuild. Even then, Ten Hag in, says Kyle. Thank you very much for that. If you had the choice, says Maya, to either sack Ten Hag and get Zidane or keep Ten Hag and back him, what would you do? I would stick with Ten Hag for another year. I don't think Zidane is taking any job this summer. So if you wanted Zidane, there's no issue with waiting, and I think I would see this project through. Interestingly, I'll bring this in here because there's a few bits of news I want to get into anyway, but I did want to bring this in. I think it's really important. I was reading an article today. I think it was actually in the it was either the Mail or the Manchester Evening News, and they were talking about a comment from Gary Neville after the Liverpool game, where he applauded the 0-0 at Christmas, basically. He applauded United for getting a result at Anfield, but basically slaughtered us for the way that we played and said, you know, it's a good result to get a 0-0 draw at Anfield, but playing like that, so defensive, it's not United, it's not good enough, etc. And since then, we haven't really done it. We've played quite open, this basketball football where they score, we score, they score, we score. And I thought to myself when I read it, is this not part of the problem? Sometimes people are screaming for solutions, but they're hypocritical in those solutions as well. So if you listen to like what some pundits were saying after the Liverpool draw, and I think Keane said it as well. I remember that game at Anfield just before Christmas, 0-0 draw, very happy with it. Was 100% sure Liverpool would win it. I mean, we've probably stopped Liverpool winning the league, really, when you think about it. They should have beat us 3 times this season. We beat them once and drawn with them twice. But that's by the by, that's Liverpool's problem. Our only choice at Anfield was to park the bus and hope. I think they had about 100 shots and we got a 0-0 draw. And we still got criticised for parking the bus. Liverpool fans criticised us. External fans criticised us. Ex-players criticised us. So we went to Anfield and we parked the bus. We got a point and we got criticised. We beat Liverpool a few months later in the FA Cup. And those same pundits are going, yeah, it's a good result, but oh my God, it's chaos. It's chaos. The game's wide open. You can't play like that. And I think that encapsulates for me a reporting standard that is 100% not helpful and hypocritical. I'm all for what I see in our chats and what I see on social media, breakdowns of issues and solutions, etc. But it's really hard when you've got a mainstream big voice or voices who completely and utterly contradict themselves in a passionate way that adds nothing other than negativity on the club. I spoke about this on the podcast, basically. You should listen to the podcast from this week, Goldbridge Saves Football. The email I got last week about United Stand, I spoke in depth on the podcast. But in essence, what that email said was, it was talking about the ex-player community around Manchester United. And it was saying, I actually don't think I would listen to them at all if I was INEOS. And I don't think fans should listen to them either. It's not my words, by the way, because I partially disagree with it. But they were saying, when you listen to them, they take no joy in Man United. It's always, in our day, it's always the United way. It's always fundamentally negative. Even with Ollie, they protected him because he was their mate, but they didn't speak glowingly about anything he did. And I disagree with it because I want to listen to people like Roy Keane and Paul Scholes, even though I don't always agree with them. They are legends that I grew up watching. But is there a pundit around Man United at the moment that displays any level of potential enthusiasm? And I don't think we do get that. And I think it's unfair when you think about it, I mean, Savage says they actually hate us. It almost does, and that's what that email said. It almost comes across that they were successful and they don't want anyone else to be successful, because I've never noticed it with Van Gaal, Mourinho, Ten Hag, or even Ollie to a certain extent. Even though he was their mate, they were a little bit more positive. I've never seen any of them get emotionally sort of enthusiastic about the club they're meant to support, love, or played for. None of them. It's always, oh, he's not good enough. Oh, it's this, it's that. And I think that's fine, because we have been bad for 10 years. And I think negativity is important when you're underperforming, because there are standards. But I also think that we got slaughtered for that 0-0 draw at Anfield for parking the bus. We're now getting slaughtered for playing too open. I mean, what is it we're supposed to do then? We all know there's an injury crisis. Some use it as an excuse. Gary Neville himself says it's not an excuse. So injuries aren't an excuse. Parking the bus when we're not good enough to go toe-to-toe with Liverpool is not an excuse. And playing wide open is chaotic. So it's like, I think that sort of is the example of the issue. Injuries aren't an excuse to these pundits. Parking the bus is not an excuse to these pundits. And playing wide open is not an excuse to these pundits. So moan. Where's the positive then? Where is the, what would you do? Because look, play like Man City and I'll praise them. Fine, I get that. I agree with that. But with this squad of players and the injuries we've had, what are you going to do other than park the bus or try and play wide open? We're not good enough to do anything else. We can't play like Man City. We can't control the ball for 80% of the game with the players that we've got. We either go gung-ho, wide open, try and score goals and win games, or we sit back, compact and park the bus. But we get criticism for both. And that's the limitations of what we are, without even bringing injuries in. So I think it's really interesting, because I just think it's moaning for moaning's sake with some people around this football club at the moment. And whether it's Ten Hag, Tuchel, Zidane, Berardi, whatever, in this current situation, I think there are only two choices. You either park the bus or you go deep line but try and press high and leave your midfield exposed, but you try and score more goals than the opposition. And both things get criticised. And there is no other way of playing with this team. So I think it's interesting. I think it is interesting, because I'm all for analysis and I'm all for conversation. And some of you want to sack the manager and some of you come up with solutions. But in the way that we've played this season, I don't see anything else we can do until the likes of this guy. There's the sneeze. Until the likes of this guy and Luke Shaw come back, I don't see, for me, it's been very, very crystal clear all season that until you get Martinez and Shaw back, this season won't change. Next season can be different because you've got a summer transfer window, but you can only do what you can do with what you've got. And we can't play like Man City with the players that we have available at the moment. We can play better with Martinez and Shaw in the team because it gives us a left-sided defence balance and it pushes up as further forward. But yeah, we can't do anything more than... There's two options, isn't there? Against Arsenal next week. You park the bus or you go open. Same against Man City in the final. You park the bus or you go open. Damned if you do, damned if you don't, says Philip. Patrick says, ex-United players look at current players and think, why can't they just do what we used to do? Not realising that United has changed drastically in the last decade, says Patrick. Yeah, and I get their frustrations, because as a fan that watched those players play, Roy Keane was just like a manager on the pitch. The frustration, it must burn them up inside. But I think that there has to be a reassessment of where we are and what we are. And we need to build a new Man United. It's very similar to what Sir Alex Ferguson took over in the mid-80s. We need to build a whole identity again. Yeah. Fid, welcome to the Members Club. Why would he want to leave a club he practically runs to go somewhere else that will hold him accountable for walking and can't spin the fan base? Says Julian. Thank you very much. I think he's talking about Rashford. Would Kim Min-jae have done worse than Amrabat, says Robert. Oh, Robert, I can't be bothered with this. I did the watch-along last night. Kim Min-jae played crap. I can't deal with this. I can't deal with people who watch a player for one game and say, I'm glad we didn't get him. Branthwaite played shite against Chelsea. I'd buy him tomorrow. Like, Van der Ven put in the worst centre-back performance I've seen this season against Newcastle for Spurs. I'd love him at Man United. Like this whole Kim Min-jae, we dodged the bullet thing just because he had a bad game against Real Madrid. It's ridiculous. Come on. It is ridiculous. I've seen him play in the Champions League a few times this season, and he's not a bad centre-back. And people who say we were better off with Johnny Evans, oh yeah, we're better off with a centre-back that can't play a high line. Yeah, Kim Min-jae actually can play a higher line, so it would have meant a different thing. I wish we'd got Kim Min-jae last summer. We didn't. I know he might not be the answer. He might have flopped, of course. I put my hands up. But this revisionary opinion on players because they have a bad game, it's hilarious to me. It really is. Like, we're not playing FIFA. We're not playing Football Manager. Players have bad games. I would take... I've done that one from Bashir as well. Just on centre-backs, though, we were talking about Maguire staying last night. 37% of you would like him to stay. 63% of you would cash in because of the way that he plays football in his style. He's 31. He's got 2 years left on his contract. It brings a bit of money in. A furtherment to that story this morning is that one of the other reasons that Man United are seriously considering keeping Maguire is his experience that he can offer to the youngsters coming through around playing at the highest level and mentality. Look, I'll throw that out there. I mean, there is no doubt that Harry Maguire's mentality is very, very strong. He is an example of how you can play absolutely terrible for a period of time and still have the mental strength to find a way back from within, which is very, very important. But if you want experience in leadership and know-how, why not just give Varane another year? Like, we've got the best player in the squad for experience in Varane. Just keep Varane for another year. Like, Maguire's never won anything. You can learn from Maguire, but players aren't going to look at him and go, wow, look at his Wikipedia page. Like, if we want genuine winning mentality experience, I wouldn't get rid of Varane. I mean, personally, I don't really mind if Varane and Maguire go, but if you want to keep somebody for experience in the dressing room, then Varane's the guy to keep because he's won it all. Like, he's the guy that Mainu and Højlund and Garnacho are going to look at and go, he's won 3 Champions Leagues in a row. He's won a World Cup. So if we're keeping experience around, I think it depends what type of experience you want. Do you want British experience, in which case keep Maguire? But if you want genuine, I've been there at the highest level, I know what it's like in a final in those minutes, then you've already got that with Varane. But look, I don't know. Sig says Maguire's mentality is better than Varane. Have you actually watched the documentary on Varane? I just wonder why you're talking shit in the chat. Varane's story is incredible. I think it's still on Amazon. It's a fantastic documentary on how he became a footballer, and yeah, Varane. Let's not dismiss Varane's story and mentality because he's not got a British passport. Yeah. Ben says, have you seen the Bruno story about his future? Yeah, it's horseshit. We spoke about it last night. I refuse to do thumbnail Bruno might go, or Bruno exit decision, or Bruno hints at leaving. You know, people talk about we do clickbait. We've never done clickbait. There might be a title that creates a conversation, but it's not clickbait because we talk about that thing. Easiest thing in the world was to make a thumbnail about Bruno last night or this morning and go, Bruno could leave. It's bollocks. It's absolute bollocks. It's lazy. It's lazy journalism. It's lazy whatever else people are doing. It's absolute bollocks. I saw it as a tweet and I went and watched the interview instantly, and he says this: you've got to feel wanted and you've got to want to stay. I want to stay and I feel wanted. But if there was something that changed, I wouldn't make my mind up until after the Euros or the FA Cup because I'm focused on that. At no point is he saying, I might go. At no point is he saying the club said they want him to go. So it's just, it's a nonsense story. And I wouldn't get distracted by Bruno when actually the story is really Greenwood, Rashford, Sancho, Maguire, Varane, Lindelof, Wan-Bissaka, Eriksen. These are all players that could or could not go, that we could cash in on. Bruno is not going anywhere, and it's just a waste of energy. Whether you think he should be going or not, that's just not going to happen. They're not going to do that. That removing Bruno would be footballing suicide this summer. Maybe next year, but not this year. Yeah, you can't do that. Stick says, this year we should have played to what players we have. Points are more important than how we play. Let's worry how good we play when we are the champions consistently, says Sticks. I've seen that, says Ben. Jake Marshall says, you can hold a team to the same standards of a quarter of a century ago. At the same time, it must be horrible seeing something you built be destroyed, says Jake. I don't think it's healthy, mate. I mean, look, I remember watching Match of the Day when I was growing up in the 90s, and you'd get Alan Hansen and Mark Lawrenson on Match of the Day, both ex-Liverpool players from a time when they played with Liverpool in the 70s and 80s where they were absolutely dominant. And Liverpool was shit in the 90s, and you could see Hansen and Lawrenson negative every week. And did it do Liverpool any good? No. Were they harking back to a time that didn't exist anymore? Yes. When did Liverpool become relevant again? Not for another 25 years. So I sat watching Hansen and Lawrenson moaning the same way some of our ex-players do. It never did any good, harking back to the past. Yes, it probably hurt them. Yes, it probably hurts our ex-players. But it's not the solution. I'd like to see a little bit more constructive positivity. Liverpool didn't solve their problems because ex-players kept moaning about it. Liverpool solved their problems because they saw a guy from Germany that they thought could rebuild their football club. And he did. And they won a Premier League and they won a Champions League. The solution for Man United is to stop looking back to the past and moaning, oh, back in our day. The solution is to get a project and build a project. And every football club's done that. Man City built a project, whether it was money or not. They built a project and they made mistakes at the start. Liverpool built a project with Klopp. Arsenal are building a project with Arteta. It does take 3, 4, 5 seasons to get there. United need to build a project. And what we don't need is moaning and negativity along the way. Whatever the next season's going to be, the project starts today, I think, with this Blanc thing. We can't have a cheat code, no. And we have to be patient. And the problem with patience in this fan base is that we've been patient for the last 11 years and the Glazers have shat it down the toilet. And I feel that we have been really, really patient. And I think what we're looking at now is a scenario where we've almost got to try and get our head set back to starting again. Because I think everything we've done in the last 11 years doesn't really matter. This year we should have... I've done that from Sticks as well. Thank you very much. Great point by Jake. Shanik says, Onana needs to go. He's cost us the Champions League. He's bad at corners. He slows the games down. He flaps at shots. Can't save near post shots, says Shanik. Look, I think Onana's very... in a way, I'm sort of in a bit of a deja vu here. I remember saying this a year ago about De Gea. People were obsessed with replacing De Gea. And I said, if De Gea is an issue, he's not in the top 10. We shouldn't be getting rid of De Gea this summer. And we did. But I'll repeat it again. Onana, whether he's an issue or not, he's not in the top 20. I'm not saying Onana's the solution, but he's not in the top 20 issues we've got at the moment. I mean, Onana for me is just, he'll be here next year. Maybe he becomes a problem in the future, but for now, he's just not. I wouldn't even mention Onana. There's way more things on and off the pitch that need sorting ahead of Onana. How would you fix our midfield, says Elliot? I would bring in 2 hungry players who are more defensive minded, who can pass. I think that midfield is so reliant on an 18-year-old. It's incredible. I mean, he's the only one who can actually move, and he's 18. Like Eriksen can't, McTominay can't, Casemiro can't, Amrabat can't. Mason Mount's more of an attacking midfielder and is never fit. Obviously, Bruno's fantastic, but we need a better balance in that midfield. A Barella type, I agree, Dizzo. An Edison, that lad from Wolves. We need to bring in... we're not going to get these players, but we need to bring in a McAllister and a Rice. We need 2, is what I'm saying. And we haven't got 1 at the moment. JDev says, I saw our legends get humbled a few times by Pep's Barcelona. 15 teams in the Premier League play like that now. They need to zip it, says JDev. Thank you very much. Yeah, Blanc starts now, starts today. The interim Stewart will go at the end of the season, but Blanc starts today. There's a big meeting going on today at Manchester United involving the senior management team. Of course, Jadon Sancho plays tonight, which I think is a positive. I'll be doing a watch-along on That's Football, so it will be 7 o'clock on the United stand. But Sancho playing tonight is positive. Lots of people watch the Champions League. Lots of scouts and clubs will be watching the Champions League. I want Sancho to go, regardless of what happens with the manager. I want Sancho to go. But him playing in a Champions League semi-final is fantastic. Brilliant. Because there'll be eyes on him. And there might be clubs out there that go, ooh, we'll take a chance on him. ABBA. Spoke about that. Let's have a look at the poll. 79% of you would go with Zidane over Tuchel. 100%. 100%. Yeah, I mean, look, I don't want to change the manager. That's not the conversation. But I would go with Zidane over Tuchel. I think, look, I've sort of had my say on Tuchel, but I think on a very simple level, and I was saying this on That's Football last night, somebody said, why don't you want Tuchel? And I said, fundamentally, it's very simple. I don't want Thomas Tuchel at Man United because I don't feel any attraction to him as a manager. Not like looks-wise. I mean, I definitely wouldn't. But my point is, I want a Sir Alex. I want a Ten Hag. I want a Klopp. I want an Ange. I want somebody that comes to Man United in the Premier League for the first time and says, Man United is my club that I am going to build, and this is going to be my project with these fans, and this is what we're going to build. And if Thomas Tuchel comes in, he's done it with Chelsea. It's similar to Mourinho. I don't want a project manager. I don't want somebody that's got a really good reputation, but they've done it elsewhere. Man United's bigger than that. We're not a project. Mourinho I wanted, but that's only because I thought he was going to win us the league. We're past that now. I wanted Mourinho to come in for 3 years, win us the league, reset the club, and then we build again. I knew what we were getting with Mourinho and I was eyes wide open, and it didn't work. But I never really liked the fact that he'd managed Chelsea because it felt like you're taking somebody else's girlfriend. So I want a manager that is our manager from day one. And if it was Zidane, I know he's managed Real Madrid, but he's never managed in the Premier League before, and it's Man United. You feel like he would be engrossed in Man United, and the fans could feel that. Ten Hag, whatever happens, he's gone from Ajax to Man United. It is his project. Sir Alex Ferguson from Aberdeen to Man United. It's his project. Amorim from Sporting Lisbon comes to the Premier League for the first time. It's his project. A bit like when Mourinho went from Porto to Chelsea. With Tuchel, he's got that Chelsea thing. And I don't want that. I don't want a project manager. I know some people would say, well, you can't. That can't be a reason. But it's not the only reason. There's a lot of other reasons. He's fell out at every club he's been at. I think he's quite arrogant. I think he's problematic. I'm not convinced about his recruitment, his development. But the main thing is he's managed Chelsea. And he's won the Champions League with Chelsea. So he's got to supersede that with us. I see him as a project manager. I don't feel that I'll ever have the attachment to him because he's managed a rival. Whereas if you did bring a Zidane in, or we did stick with Ten Hag, I think you can get more behind the fact that Man United is there. There's a better connection. Anyway, look, that's my thoughts. Thanks everyone for watching this morning. Make sure you smash a like on the video and subscribe. Fantastic show again this morning. If you want to read more, if you want to listen more about what we were talking about on the podcast, you can always check that out. Goldbridge Saves Football. I don't know where the... we normally have a QR code I can put up, but it's completely disappeared. It was there this morning, and now it's disappeared, which is obviously very disappointing. I don't know where it is. I don't know where it is. I can't. Just type Spotify Goldbridge Saves Football. Anyway, take care, everyone. Absolute legends. And I'm back at 7 o'clock with you tonight. I think we've got Ricky on the show at 2 o'clock with Beth later, actually. Looking forward to that. I will speak to you in a little bit. Gaz says Tuchel also has a history of falling out with the hierarchy at clubs. One of those hierarchies was our new CEO, actually. Blanc was his CEO at PSG. Take care, everyone. Speak to you in a bit.